the rest of our album titles have come about, which is that Kyle has kind of bashfully presented it to me, and I've just latched onto it immediately. And this time around, I guess it was a little different, but this time around we were on tour in late 2022 on the co-headliner that we did with 200 Stab Wounds in the US. And we had just played a show in New York, and we were at a bar, and Kyle and I were just like drinking and talking, and he was like, I just wrote this song that I'm thinking about putting on the next album, and I think I'm going to call it More Insane. And right then and there, I was just like, that is such a good name. Like, I love that. It's so punchy, and it's so immediate, and it's funny, and it's memorable. And yeah, it was just one of those things where without even hearing the song, I just knew that had to also be the name of the album.
And that's Alex from Undeath on More Insane. The band's latest album is out right now on Prosthetic Records. Do check out the link in the show notes. This is my third time speaking to Alex in 3 years now, and I've really enjoyed speaking to him about not just Undeath, but also the music that he listens to and also touring. All that and more in my chat with him. Here it is. Hey Alex, welcome back, I must say.
Hey, how's it going? Good to see you.
Good, man. I mean, we were just reminiscing before I hit record that this is our third chat in a couple of years. And I remember speaking to you before the release of It's Time to Rise from the Grave. And I think we spoke 6 months later. And so much has happened, right? You guys have seen go from like strength to strength in the last couple of years. And that's at least me observing this from the outside. But what's the last couple of years been like for you and the rest of the band?
Oh man, I mean it's been crazy. It's been very, very hectic. Just nonstop touring pretty much. I mean, I feel like when you and I talked for the first time, we really didn't have a lot of touring under our belt, and now we've done 4 or 5 full US tours. We've been to Europe, we've been to the UK, we've been to Australia. So just been staying busy, man, but it's been very cool.
Yeah, and I think I remember like in our second chat, you had talked about being really kicked about Australia. And I'm guessing that went really well because in a couple of weeks, you're going to be flying down again to Australia. So that's really cool too.
Yeah, we had a great time. Looking back on it, it's kind of ridiculous because we flew down to Australia for 2 shows, which is like logistically probably not the smartest move, but we had a great time, and we weren't about to say no to that opportunity, even if it was just being there for like 3 days. But yeah, it was awesome, and I'm very much looking forward to going back and playing more shows.
Awesome. So I'm going to try holding back from talking about all the touring that you're doing because the reason why we're speaking almost 2 months ahead of the release of your upcoming album, More Insane, is that you're just going to be on the road a lot. So let's switch the conversation to More Insane, right? Third
Sure.
album, based off our chats in the past. In what situation did Kyle come up with this name? Because I know he's the guy who came up with the name. So
Yeah, it was Kyle 100%. And it came about in kind of the same way, or I guess a similar way to the way that the rest of our album titles have come about, which is that Kyle has kind of bashfully presented it to me, and I've just latched onto it immediately. And this time around, I guess it was a little different, but this time around we were on tour in late 2022 on the co-headliner that we did with 200 Stab Wounds in the US. And we had just played a show in New York, and we were at a bar, and Kyle and I were just like drinking and talking, and he was like, I just wrote this song that I'm thinking about putting on the next album, and I think I'm going to call it More Insane. And right then and there, I was just like, That is such a good name. Like I love that. It's so punchy and it's so immediate and it's funny and it's memorable. And yeah, it was just one of those things where without even hearing the song, I just knew that had to also be the name of the album.
And if there's something else that I also remember from Kyle is that he's constantly writing, right? And you kind of talked about touring in the last couple of years. At which point did you all kind of say, you know what, we're going to put this on hold for a bit and now concentrate on a new album, and take us through that process?
Yeah, I mean, Kyle is definitely always writing. That is something that he's just whether it's at sound check or just time in the green room backstage or time at home when we're not touring, he's always working on stuff. He's always cooking. And with us, as far as finding time to actually get in the studio and record the album, you know, I don't know if we specifically said, okay, let's not tour for the next whatever it was, like 5 or 6 months so we could get the album done. It was more just like that opportunity just kind of naturally presented itself where we got the offers to do the tour with Exodus in whatever that was late last year. And then we really didn't have anything on the calendar for the beginning of this year. So we said that was just the perfect time. So we just booked a month with Mark and got it done.
Okay, that seems pretty straightforward, but I'm sure it's not that straightforward. While going into the writing sessions or even the recording sessions, right? I mean, like I mentioned at the start, it's time to rise from the grave really put you guys on the map. And in those 6 months that we spoke, I saw that change happen. Uh, and I think that even blew up far more in the last 2 years. Did that weigh at all on you? I mean, because let's be honest, right? You guys not only got critically acclaimed, you all got we were on charts. All of that kind of added up, right? Does that actually weigh or matter when you all go into writing or into the studio, or how do you kind of separate that?
Um, that's a really good question. I think sometimes you get a little up in your own head about I don't want to say superficial, but kind of like artificial stuff like that, right? Like uh charting and album sales and all these like external pressures that come with making music. And you hear about it from so many people and you see what your peers are doing and you hear what like your manager and your booking agent are talking about, and it kind of it becomes something that is on the forefront of your mind whether you want it to be or not. But we're really good at checking ourselves, I think, and we're really good at being able to walk ourselves back and remember that the reason that we're doing this band is not for any of that stuff. It's to have fun and make death metal and to tour it and to play live. And it really isn't much more complicated than that. And you know, I just I feel like we put pressure on ourselves all the time to one up ourselves a little bit and to hone our craft and to just kind of get better and more confident at what we're doing. But that's the only real pressure that we ever really try to take seriously, if that makes sense. Beyond that, everything else is just like it's just noise that you have to tune out.
Yeah, and it's true, right? Like you said, I mean, I've seen a lot. And earlier there used to be this thing of the sophomore album. Like if your debut album does well, then you have the sophomore album, and how do you top that? But one of the things I've noticed in recent times is also longevity, right? And staying consistent, staying at it, because there's so many different things that happen. I mean, just outside the music itself, right? Everyone has lives and things. So that also ends up catching up. But coming back to more insane, what I love, and I'm sorry, I'm going to read out from the press note because I really loved and wanted to highlight out this part because I think give some context, right? For me, death metal goes well with lifting weights. And so when I saw the whole part of weightlifting, I was like, fuck, these guys get it, right? Like all, all the guys who are like lifting in the gym will totally get it. And I quote where I'll say, if our last record, It's Time to Rise from the Grave, was our cut cycle record, where we trimmed down the fat and homed things down to the raw essentials, more insane is us entering our bulk cycle, where we built a filthy record on top of a canvas of pure death metal muscle. Fuck. That sounds like like you like I know you guys have spent some time in the weight room. That's the only way you come up with that also. But for those who are not into weightlifting or at the hitting the gym, how would you kind of break that down for them?
Yeah, it's that's a very surreal experience having my own ridiculous words being read back to me like that. Um, how would I break that down? I mean, so when you're in the world of bodybuilding, right? I'm not a bodybuilder myself, but like I follow enough people on social media and have spent enough time in the gym that I'm familiar with this stuff. In the world of bodybuilding, you have something called a cut cycle and a bulk cycle. So when you're cutting, it means that you're trying to stay in a caloric deficit so that you're losing weight and that you're sort of building muscle definition. And then when you're bulking, you're in a caloric surplus and you're trying to put on weight and lift more weight at the gym with your added mass. So you're basically kind of always alternating between cutting, bulking, cutting, bulking, cutting, bulking. And it's just a way that it's a tried and true routine that bodybuilders and professional weightlifters have been employing for years and years and years to maintain their physiques and to be able to constantly improve at the gym and be able to lift more weight and lift more weight consistently. Uh, the way that applies to us, that was kind of just like a ridiculous thing that I said in the press release just to say something stupid and silly. But there's some truth to that, right? I mean, with its time, it was like a cut cycle thing. We had done legions from a different kind and legions of a different kind, and we took the next record. It's time to kind of just like whittle stuff away and file down to the essentials and figure out what we were trying to do and what our sound is and what we felt confident doing and where we wanted to go, right? So we were slimming down and really kind of refining and honing our craft. And with More Insane, we're kind of bulking, right? It's like we're okay, now we know what we want to do. Now we know where we want to go. We've gotten rid of any elements that we felt like were unnecessary, and we've kind of eschewed anything that was in the way, so to speak. And now that we have really honed everything down to the brass tacks, now let's start putting on muscle. Let's have bigger production. Let's make the songs even louder and crazier, uh, and that is what I mean by bulking. So it's all kind of a ridiculous metaphor, but I feel like it does apply.
Okay, thanks for humoring me with that. But it also brings me to your single that you released, and it's the first single from More Insane, which is Brandish the Blade. I think that kind of encapsulate what you're talking about quite well, right? Because one of the things I think a lot of times Undeath got lumped into is, the caveman death metal and all of that. But when you hear Brandish the Blade, you clearly see there's what you're talking, right? You're like bulking up. Uh, was that the first song you all wrote off this album?
Yeah, I think it was. We've had that song since like October of 2022, I think was when it was like done being written. And then we played it live for the first time on the 200 Stab Wounds tour that we did in the fall of 2022. And it hasn't really left our set since then. So we've been playing that song for like 2 years. Well, not 2 years, but like a year and a half at this point. So it's been around for a while, but yeah, it was the first one that we wrote for the new record.
And how would you, for people who haven't heard the single but are, death metal fans and undeath fans, how would you kind of describe the shift that is in the sound for Brandish the Blade?
I would say it's a pretty natural evolution from what we were trying to do on the song "Rise from the Grave." It's a more anthemic song. It's a more like uh I don't want to say sing along, but it has like a big hooky chorus. It's triumphant. It's like something that you would like ride into battle with, you know. So it's in that same wheelhouse as what we were doing for Rise from the Grave, but just like the next step from there. It's just a little bit more refined, I would want to say.
Awesome. So I think it's time we play the track and give everyone a taste of the album. So here's Brandish the Blade.
The moon is gone.
And that was Brandish the Blade of the upcoming Undeath album, More Insane. And I've got Alex with me from the band. Now, one of the
Yo,
things you talked about was getting Mark Lewis uh, to work on the album with you. And not only did he engineer, mix, master, but also co-produce the album with the band. Uh, Tell us about that. I mean, because again, Mark Lewis is someone who's quite well known. So, how did you kind of decide to kind of work with him, and what was that experience like?
so with Mark, when we got done recording its time with Scoops Arderis down in Philly, uh, we were kind of having some casual conversations with each other about where we wanted to go and what we wanted the next record to sound like. And I think from the very beginning, we just knew we wanted to switch it up. We knew we wanted to maybe go work with somebody who was a little bit more of like an established metal producer and uh, get a little bit outside of our comfort zone and work with somebody who wasn't like already a friend of ours and actually work with somebody who is like a dedicated metal engineer. So we were having those conversations and we were kicking around a couple different names of people that we would be stoked to work with, and Mark's name kept coming up. And it was just a matter of, we would talk about these records that we loved and these records that we loved the way that they sounded. And there were ones that we kept coming back to. There was Cannibal Corpse, Skeletal Domain. There was the Black Dahlia Murder records that he worked on. Um, and yeah, there was just all this stuff, and Mark was the common thread there. And once we kind of realized that, we wanted to meet him. So he came out to a show that we played in Birmingham, Alabama. And, we just clicked immediately. It was like we had known the guy forever. And that's really important when you're going to be in the studio with somebody for a month, is that you have to get along. You got to like each other a little bit. And Mark was like that from the jump. He got our very stupid juvenile senses of humor. He was able to level with us on like a personal level, but he also was he's a musician himself, so he understood where we were coming from. And yeah, and we just knew that he was the guy. And as far as actually recording the record, I mean, it was great. It was it was intense, but it was great. I mean, and I say intense because we were in the studio doing nothing but recording this album for a month. And, we lived in the studio. We had a little apartment like kind of next door that we were all staying in. So it was kind of like boot camp in a way. It's just the five of us in this little dorm room. And then we wake up at 8 in the morning every day, sometimes earlier, and go into the control room with Mark, start tracking until 5 or 6, and then we were done. And then, wash, rinse, repeat for a month. But it was awesome. It was so cool and illuminating and inspiring to be able to work with somebody who was able to coach really excellent performances out of all of us and knew what we were trying to do. So it was an extremely cool experience, and I think we're all very stoked about how it came out.
Yeah, one of the albums actually this year he's worked on also is the latest Nile album. So
Yep.
that's really cool to kind of hear. I haven't had a chance to sink in my teeth to that album as yet, but looking forward to doing that. And I mean, it's Nile. You can't fuck with Nile, right?
No, they're some of the best to ever do it. I remember when we were in the studio recording, he played us a little bit of that record, and I was just blown away by how good it sounded. It was like the best sounding Nile material I had heard in years. Yeah, I mean, it's fucking Nile. Nile's the best.
Yeah, yeah. But okay, I'm holding back because there's another segment I really enjoy doing with you, so I'm gonna hold on some moments for that. But tell me about the artwork, because I think one of the things that's also very distinct about Undeath is your artwork, and I believe your drummer Matt Browning again worked on the artwork. Uh, First, let's discuss what it is, right? Because there's a lot going on as always
Oh
in the
yeah.
artwork, and then we can discuss further more. But tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's another Matt Browning joint. He kind of just snapped on it like he always does. Uh, what is happening in the artwork? Great question. It is a floating, disembodied godhead in a white void, and it's cracking open to reveal that the contents of this head are a massive, sprawling cemetery landscape that stretches all the way back to the horizon. And in the horizon, you can see this big mountain range. So that is the album cover in its essence. But uh, it is it ties into the last two Undeath records in the sense that with Legions, our first album, you know, it's the scene from this cave, right, where this guy's being his head's being chopped off by this slime monster. Then with its time, we zoom out, and it's this kind of battle sequence where this army of the undead is being amassed, and they're in the cemetery, and you can see the cave from Legions in the background. And then with More Insane, we've zoomed out even further to reveal that all of this, all the events of the first two records, are taking place within this cracked head. So, it's details like that it's important to us. We always love when bands have that kind of continuity, and there's little Easter eggs like that and hidden stuff in the album art, and the album art tells a story. So, that's definitely stuff that we get very excited about. But yeah, that is in essence what the artwork is.
And I think also it's for collectors. So anyone who buys like the vinyl and stuff like that, you can kind of get like this entire thing, because I don't think CD does justice to this kind of artwork, to be honest, right?
No, yeah, and that's definitely something that's really important to us is the whole package. Like when you're holding it in your hands, I love. I mean, all of us do. We love going to the record store and flipping through vinyl and just holding a cover in front of you that just looks fucking sick. And but that's something we try to do all the time with all of our albums, is we want it to stand out, and we want you to be able to put the album on and then just stare at the cover and kind of get lost in it.
Yeah. Yeah. But okay, so even with this, and I think one of the cool things also is you'll have already, even though we're like talking close to a month and a half before the album release, you'll have like a variety of like merch available that people can kind of pre-order and stuff like that. Was there anything that y'all thought y'all could try different this time around, or since the artwork is such that y'all had thought about?
Um, that's a good question. I think with the last record, with its time, we had a lot more conversations about like what kind of stupid, ridiculous merch we could print. I think there was a time when we were talking about making like Speedos, and we were talking about like grinders and weed rolling trays and all this stuff. And like it's fun and it's funny, and it's definitely stuff that I feel like we'll revisit again. But for this one, it's ironic for me to say this because we have this huge spread of merch that we're advertising, but we tried to pare it down a little bit this time and just have the focus be more about the music and less about us releasing like 600 t-shirts at the same time. I mean, you got to release some stuff, otherwise people will get mad. But yeah, we tried to make stuff that was fun and exciting for people, but also not have that be like the focal point of the album, if that makes sense.
No, surely. I mean, like, and it's crazy that you say this, right? Here in India, locally, there's a company that makes rolling papers and stuff like that. So a band actually collaborated with them and got like different ranges of rolling
Yeah.
papers named after their songs and things like that. And I was just like, I don't know, why do more bands not think about such stuff, right? Uh, but it made sense, I guess.
Yeah, we've done rolling papers before. I think with the last record we had them, and they said like it's time dot 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 to smoke weed on them. It's just like silly shit like that. But yeah, this time around, it wasn't really anything that we were think. I think the excitement with that kind of stuff has just kind of worn off for us a little bit, and now we're like, okay, we got the novelty weed rolling papers out of our system. Like, let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah, totally. Okay. I think now, and no pun intended or no anything else, but I think it's time we come to a segment which I think I've really enjoyed doing with you on the last couple of episodes we had. And I think you know which where I'm kind of going is anyone who follows you on Twitter or any of your social media knows that like not only are you like very active as a musician, but also as a listener. And you're constantly like kind of putting out recommendations or sharing stuff. So, if I may, or and maybe we can possibly, if I have a couple of those tracks, I can play from some of those releases. But what have you been listening to lately, and who do you want to give a shout out to?
Um, that's a great question. I have a running list of my phone right now of everything that I've been listening to that I've really enjoyed. So I'm going to pull that up right now just so I don't miss anything. Um, I will say that I have been really loving this album by this band called Defaced. It's called Opium Angel. Um, just like crazy, crazy death metal uh, from where is that? It's like a one man project, I'm pretty sure. Um, but he's just crazy. I think they're from like Eastern Europe or something. But they put out a self titled record a couple years ago that I loved. And yeah, they just put a new one this year called Opium Angel that I thought was so good. So that I've been listening to that a lot. Uh, and then I guess the other two that I've really been enjoying are this band from Canada called Adversarial. They put out an album called Solitude with the Eternal. That shit is just so good. It's just like blisteringly fast, evil war metal, black metal type shit. Just really, 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 really good band. And they've been a band that I've been following since pretty much the beginning. And it's just been awesome to watch them kind of grow and develop and get even tighter and meaner with every release. Um, and yeah, man, I mean, I could go on and on and on, but there is what is I think it's called Harvest of Malevolence. Let me double check that right now. Yes, Harvest of Malevolence, the new Hyperdontia record. That'll be the last one. Um, that Hyperdontia is a death metal band from Europe. I'm pretty sure they're from Copenhagen or at least like the Copenhagen area. Used to have the guy from Undergang in the band. I don't know if he's still in the band, but um, Hyperdontia is fucking great. And their new album, Harvest of Malevolence, is just like Riff City, USA. It's just like nothing but just sick death metal riffs over and over and over. Like I equate it to if you're familiar with like the NBA All Star game, and you've just got like LeBron James and Steph Curry and like all these superstars on the court, and they're not even. It's like effortless. Like they're just pulling up from half court and just shooting like it's nothing. Like that's what it feels like listening to this record. It's just like here's a perfect death metal riff. All right, now 15 seconds later, here's another one, and it just goes like that for 35 minutes.
Okay, so just a quick wrap up for those who want. First is Deface, Opium Angel. Second is Adversarial, Solitude with the Eternal, and Hyperdontia, Harvest of Malevolence. So those are three records that Alex totally recommends that you check out. Uh, I'm actually going to play a track and maybe push you to see if we can play a track from Adversarial. Because one of the things I think I really enjoyed about their sound is that snare tone, man. Like, I think they've just fucking, it's like, how do I explain it? I mean, to me, I explain it as they've taken that grindcore drum sound and fucking made it sound well in this claustrophobic death black metal-ish sound, right? Like it just totally works.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they've kind of like gotten away from that a little bit with the last couple records. Like I feel like if I could play armchair psychologist here for a second, I think that I remember when that first adversarial record came out, and that was like all anybody talked about, which is how crazy the snare tone was. I mean, I was definitely one of those people. Like that's just kind of the most immediate thing about the album, and I feel like they maybe got a little self conscious about that, and they wanted to not do that anymore. So they definitely have like a more normal quote unquote snare sound with the last two albums, but yeah, just fucking killer band, like so good.
Okay, do you have a track that you'd like us to play?
Yeah, let me refresh my memory here. I'm just pulling up the track list, see, because there was one specifically. uh Sorry, give me a moment. um let's listen to Hatred, Kiln, Vengeance.
Here it is. And that was Hatred, Kiln of Vengeance by Adversarial off their album Solitude. Solitude with the Eternal, highly recommended by Alex and also by me. I mean, if you're into like death, doom metal, black metal, this is definitely something up your alley.
Oh, absolutely. Just totally vicious and uncompromising and very mean, nasty music for for very mean, nasty people.
Right. As always, thanks, Alex, for sharing what you've been listening to and those recommendations. And for those tuned in, I highly recommend you follow Alex on X. That's one of the few things I actually show up sometimes just to check and see what you're listening to, because it's one of those things, right? Like, you know, there used to be the blog spot back in the day, and you'd kind of follow releases on there. I think those have kind of died down much. So it's a lot more like people you follow on social media and things like that. So I really enjoy doing that.
No, thank you.
Now we're going to talk about the fun stuff, which is what you're going to be up, I think, at least for the next few months. I don't know how much you can reveal at this point about the rest of the year, but you've got in a couple of weeks, you're heading to Asia, crossing over India, going to Australia, and then you're heading back and doing a North American tour. So let's
Yeah.
start off with your Asian tour and also Australia. What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to all of it. I have to get my dog in the picture because she is very anxious right now. Um, let's see. Yeah, we're going to Asia for the very first time. We're playing in Japan, we're playing in China, we're playing in Vietnam, we're playing in Singapore. I mean, all of this is purely theoretical, assuming that our visas get approved. But looking forward to that. We're playing in Australia. We're going back there. Playing in Perth, Melbourne, Adelaide, Sydney, Brisbane. Yeah, and then we go over to the US and we start like 4 weeks of touring in America. We starts in LA and then we go from LA all through the country and it ends in Rochester, which is like a hometown show for us. So yeah, like you said, it is close to 2 months straight of touring, so it's a real gauntlet, but I'm very, very excited about all of it.
And also, I must add, right, this is your first headlining tour of North America, and you've got Cruelty and Gates of Hell coming along the way. And I don't know if we chatted about Cruelty, but I've been kind of talking about them, and they're a really, really good band. I mean, like, really enjoyed their album when it came out.
Oh yeah, they're fantastic. And they've been a band that we've been trying to tour with forever. I mean, back in 2022, when we were doing the co-headliner with 200 Stab Wounds, Cruelty was the first band that we thought of that both of us wanted to bring out, and it didn't line up with their schedule, unfortunately. But we've been trying to make that happen forever. And Zuma from Cruelty, he's the singer and guitarist. I have to shout him out because uh, he's like an OG Undeath fan from way back in the day. Like I remember back in the demo days with our demo Sentient Autolysis. I'm pretty sure I sent him that one in a T-shirt. Like I mailed him one myself to Tokyo because he was a fan and he had reached out and expressed how much he liked it. So yeah, really excited to meet that guy and really excited to tour with them because they're just a fucking killer band.
Any expectations of what you're looking forward to at the Asian shows?
I believe your question was what I am most looking forward to about those shows, or excited about the Asia shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, extremely excited. I mean, that is a place we've been dreaming of going to since we first started the band. Like just going to Japan is so, like has been a fantasy of ours for years, and the fact that it's actually happening is just unbelievable. And I mean, beyond that, like I never even dreamed that we would play in China of all places, or like Vietnam. That's just so far out to me. So I can't believe that it's happening. I mean, I'm still in kind of like disbelief that it's actually going to happen. Like, I don't want to jinx anything, but like until the moment that we're on stage in China and playing, like it's not going to feel real to me, you know?
Yeah, and just to add, this year's been pretty crazy, especially in India, because a lot of the bands that are actually traveling and playing in Asia also end up making stopovers. So earlier this year, Suffocation came down, and that was a fucking treat because like I would
Yeah,
have never imagined seeing Suffocation like in my hometown where I grew up listening to music and just seeing all of them there. Uh, Earlier this week, where we're recording, and this is actually towards the end of August, Skeletal Remains from LA came down,
yeah,
and their set was actually a reminder of why I need to buy earplugs when I go to shows because they were just so fucking loud. Uh, but
yeah. That
yeah,
band's
man, it's
awesome.
yeah. So it's been quite a treat just to see a lot of the bands performing. Yeah, so really looking forward, and I think like especially the shows that y'all are doing in places like Vietnam and Singapore and stuff like that have like may not have like huge numbers, but they still have like a very rabid death metal following.
Yeah, totally, man. I mean, I like if we show up in Vietnam and we play to 10 people in a bar, like that still would be a massive success to me just because we did it. We played death metal music on the other side of the planet, right? Like that's kind of just that's what it's all about. And I'm extremely excited for all of those shows. I think it's going to be a great time.
Definitely. I hope everything goes smoothly and it works out for you guys. But I'm looking forward to all those bootleg videos that people end up putting up because I just love it. I mean, like, I was watching, when I totally forgot to mention, Defeated Sanity actually did a very similar route where they were playing. And before I was like doing research for this, what I love about YouTube, it keeps throwing me these, mobile phone recorded videos. I saw Defeated Sanity play Bangkok, and there's
Yeah.
no stage. It is like so fucking DIY. It is insane, man.
Yeah, we were
So
we were trying to play Bangkok, but the show didn't come together. But yeah, my expectations for the tour is like, I mean, I've heard so many things about like bands showing up in Singapore and they go, okay, here's your back line, like here's the amps that you can play, and it's like like an old stereo receiver or something. So I uh, I have no idea how it's gonna go, but I'm very excited regardless. I think the shows are gonna be really good. I'm stoked.
awesome, man. Uh, you know, as always, it's a pleasure talking to you. And, each time we kind of connect, I learn so much, and especially about your process and Undead's process. But before we end, I have to ask you a mandatory question, right? When you look back at just how the last 5 or 6 years has been, where do you kind of project to see Undeath going in the next few years? I'm not saying 5 years because it's kind of really unrealistic to kind of expect that, but maybe in the next year or two.
But, that's a good question. Like I don't know, man. And the important thing for me is just staying present and just not thinking, like having aspirations, but not thinking too much about the future when I should be focusing my time about enjoying what I have in front of me right now. And that's especially true to me because I remember when Undeath started 5.5 years ago, and it was going to be a side project for my old band. Like that's how like small I was thinking. I was just like, okay, I'll do this little death metal band on the side, and but this other band's going to be my priority. And then within a year, that just completely shifted, and Undeath just became this thing that I wasn't expecting at all. And I remember back in those days, just thinking to myself like, my grandest ambition was just to be able to tour the US one time. And now we've done that like 5 or 6 times. And then after that, it was okay, well, I would love to tour in like overseas. And now we've done that a few times. So for me, it really is just about the day to day at this point. I want to just continue to play shows. I want to continue to new places and to meet new people and to play this music that I love playing for anybody who wants to hear it. And As far as the future is concerned, I just hope that whether it's for the next year, whether it's for the next 10 years, whether it's for the next 30 years, I'm just able to continue to do this in some capacity, because that's what really matters to me.
Yeah, and it's crazy just how, because my question originally was, do you have a bucket list? But then I realized, you're looking at just the short term, smaller things. So yeah, full power to you guys, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff that I would love to do, like bucket list tours for sure. Like touring with Carcass would be a dream come true, right? Like touring with Cannibal Corpse would be a dream come true. Um, there's tons of bands out there that I would just be like over the moon to be able to tour with. But I'm not like I'm not like lying awake at night like, when's that fucking Carcass tour gonna happen? Like, I'm just, if it happens someday, amazing. If not, I'm not losing sleep over it. Like, there's plenty of things out there I would love to do. Just get through every day and enjoy it while it's happening.
Yeah, and really looking forward to seeing all of that happen and come to fruition. But thanks so much as always. Any final words for everyone who's tuned in?
Well, thank you again. It's always a pleasure talking to you, man. Final words, just we got our new record, More Insane, coming out on October 4th. You can listen to that wherever you listen to music, pretty much. We're doing tons of touring, like we talked about. If we're coming anywhere near you, come out to a show. Don't be a stranger. Come say what's up. And yeah, just thank you very much for the support. Thanks for listening, and all the best to everybody out there.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Alex. Really appreciate you taking time out to speak to us.
Of course, man. Thank you so much.
And that was Alex from Undeath. Do check out More Insane, out right now on Prosthetic Records. If you're in North America, I'm really jealous that you get a chance to catch them live. Before I sign off, do check out the links in the show notes. Follow me on whatever social media platform you're on, Instagram, X. Hit subscribe or follow. Leave me a rating on whichever platform you're listening to this episode. We've got something fun coming up on the Horns Up podcast, hornsuppod.com. If you prefer YouTube, do check us out there. Lots coming up in the next few weeks. Stay tuned. I'll see you all very soon. Cheers.